But you never know that you could. And when you feel that way, ain't it good, good dancing in the red and gold. Dancing in the red and gold.
What's up, Faithful? Welcome to the 49er Faithful UK Live. As always, I'm your host, Paul Hope, and on today's show, we will be looking ahead to this Thursday night when we take on the LA Rams in a key NFC West matchup on prime time. Dependent on your website of choice, the 49ers are 2.5 favourites and the over-under is 49.5. Now, helping me to break all this down, the man who knows more about rabbit holes than Lewis Carroll, it is, of course, my good friend, Gareth Ellis.
Oh, really? Oh, I thought you were teeing up Lee. Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, I did as well.
Yeah.
Well, Lee, I was going to say he's currently known, Gareth, as leading the awesome foursome in our score prediction league. And boy, don't we know about it. It is, of course, the one and only Lee Gowland in the house.
Now then, guys, now then.
Well, don't use that coach catchphrase, please.
See, rabbit holes already. Now, chaps, the LA Rams defeated us 27-24 in week 3, and they are looking to sweep the season series against us for the first time since 2018. They are currently second in the NFC West, and they are coming into this one off the back of a huge 44-42 win over the Buffalo Bills. Worried about this one, chaps? Or is it just another game against the Rams?
Oh, I'm worried about every game between now and the end of the regular season because we have to win every single game between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I'm concerned. The Rams seem to be coming into a bit of form. I think they've got the weaknesses, particularly on the defensive side, but the offense seems to be running well. We'll dip into that. We'll have a look at that a bit later. Obviously, scoring 44 points, that tells you everything you need to know. Against a Bills team, we could barely move the ball on. Obviously, weather depending. But yeah, worried about this one. And of course, if we lose this one, our playoff chances drop, I think, below 1%, which becomes, freakish act of God type events need to happen for us to make it in. So, and the last thing I want is for the Rams to effectively eliminate us in our own home. That's just not.
So while we're on that's a very good segue to the very last slide I've got on the slide deck. So I'm going to put that one up.
It's not that good.
You're right. It's not. Kind of weird. These are positive spin coming here, and it's something that I learned today that I had no idea was the case. So this slide, this shows you the worst teams to ever win the Super Bowl, and as you can see, the 49ers were actually out on their own for quite a few years. It's only in the last decade that people have joined us there, and then eventually in 2011 the Giants overtook us with a 9-7 record to win the Super Bowl. So our record as it stands at the moment, we can still do it. The Giants did it. We can do it with 7 defeats. So I don't think anything's lost yet. Obviously, we've got a long way to go. We've got another 4 games to play. Each one of them is a must-win game. Another 4, another 5 games to play. And each one of them is a must-win game. So we have to do it. And obviously, the one that worries us all is the Lions. Because we don't know if they've clinched the 1 seed by then, with 2 games remaining. I kind of get the feeling that that's not going to be the case. I think it is going to go down to the last game of the season to who gets that 1 seed. So they will come into Levi's. Actually, it's not Levi's, is it? It's in Detroit. They will be up for that game.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not impossible. So there's still a chance.
About 1 in 10 chance.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, as Nadji is unable to join us tonight, for those of you who are wondering, where is Nadji? Unfortunately, he is working, so the witty introduction I had for him referencing his sound issues will go unheard.
Well, I heard he spat the dummy out once he saw Chris Wood's new meme.
Yeah, Chris is in the house. Good segue there, Lee. So for those people who are listening to the pod, we are doing our wonderful merging the two chaos. So we've gone live on Wednesday on YouTube, but if you're listening back, Chris Wood, evening, good to see you, buddy. I did laugh Lee when I saw that one. I'm sure Nadji took it in good humour. Also, another change, there'll be no History Corner this week. That's right, isn't it, Lee? Didn't have time to prepare all your homework because you've been busy with those slides.
That's right. I did actually try and research something that was going to put a positive spin on our situation. Unfortunately, that slide was pretty much it. That's all I could come up with.
Well, to be fair, we have obviously ended our 3-game losing streak and we bounced back in our most convincing and dominant performance of the season yet. And I use that word yet, Gareth, because I'm trying to be upbeat. But Gareth, roles reversed. You're not in the big chair on a Wednesday.
No, little chair.
The little chair. Now, before I hand over to you, some people would argue that the Sunday's win against the Bills was probably one of the Rams' greatest offensive display of the Sean McVay era. So I have gone back and watched that game tape, Gareth. I don't know whether you have in preparation for your deep dive on the offense that we'll be facing tomorrow.
Preparation? Yeah, I did. I did watch it. I think you missed a trick there. We could have told everybody that Nadji was in the show tonight and just leave some pauses every now and then, and no one would be none the wiser. But do you want me to start with my deep dive into the Rams offense? In which case you need to tee up the graphic for the lovely faithful who are watching.
Yeah, we normally do an injury report at this stage, but I think at
It's
this
too
stage of the
depressing.
season, so yeah, we'll go on with the offense. So
It's a short week. So the offense, the Bills game, I thought this looks very familiar, and then I remembered, of course, Sean McVay gets all his ideas from Shanahan, and the offenses looked very similar. Old man Stafford, I think, is having a little bit of a renaissance. I thought there was going to be a chance he was going to retire after last season when he was struggling with the back injuries. But he's looking really good. He's always been a good quarterback. Let's face it. He's always been, I think, underrated in that he obviously had the drag factor of playing for a poor Lions team for much of his career. And I think we're seeing the difference with an offensive-minded coach and some consistency. He had a great game against the Bills, 132 rating, a couple of TDs, but that's all that was needed. He's had 10 TDs to 0 interceptions over his last 4 games. Stafford can make all the throws. He can make them outside the numbers, deep downfield, short, quick passes. He has got it all. And one thing I noticed very much against the Bills, whether it's something they've been doing all season, but I think to mitigate Stafford's lack of mobility, he drops back really far after the snap. He starts quite far back and he just backpedals all the way because he's so accurate over 20 air yards. He can go 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage and still nail those passes to only get the 5-7 yards. I think that's something we will potentially see. They will be dropping back, or maybe he's going to just try and do the really quick pass up-tempo offense that we have seen the Rams do before. So he is supported in the air attack with his double-barreled attack. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, easy for me to say. Both are coming into form after some injuries. And when I look through their list of pass catchers, they've got a lot of guys who get 200-300 yards so far. Tutu Atwell, he burnt us in the week 3 game. Demarcus Robinson, Colby Parkinson, and Tyler Johnson all contribute regularly. They all get 2-3 catches a game, and they're often those important 3rd down conversion catches. Plus, Kyron Williams coming out of the backfield. He does have an embarrassment of riches. He has been sacked a few times, but I think they're beginning to work past that, as I said, with the deep drop-offs and maybe some quick passes. One thing I did notice was they seem to be doing those screen passes behind the line of scrimmage to Puka Nacua. Where have we seen that before? Just like our offense has used many times, that quick pass to a speedy wide receiver who suddenly got a screen of big, hefty lads in front of him and is making his way downfield. The run game isn't going to set the world alight, but I think they commit to it. And Kyle Williams is a decent back, but he's only averaging about 4 yards a carry. But they have started using Nakua in a Debo type role, with the reverses, the end arounds, though the pitch passes behind the line of scrimmage that count as run plays. So look out for that as well. I think we're going to see a lot of that kind of misdirection. They've got a high-powered offense. I think in this one could well be a shootout. I think it's going to be a tough night for our secondary. We're going to have to be on the ball. I am glad, hopefully, that Huff will be back and getting into a little bit more form. And I hope maybe the family man gets a rest and we get to see Mr. Greenlaw, because I think this is going to be a game for it, particularly in coverage. And we know Devondre Campbell has struggled. And I think that would be an area that they would potentially look to pick on for us. What have I missed on my whistle-stop tour of the LA Rams?
So there's one thing that I think you
I knew I
have
would.
missed out. So obviously, I completely agree with you. Once Stafford has time in the pocket, he can hit his wide receivers. He is dangerous. He always has been. However, if you look at this stat here,
Oh,
as you can see,
We love
his
a good
passer
stat.
rating under pressure absolutely plummets. And I think the fact that Yita Gross-Matos and Leonard Floyd have built up this good tandem, bookend tandem there. The fact Gross-Matos is now kind of match fit. He's got the speed. I think that bodes well for us to get pressure on Stafford. And if we do that, he is going to crumble, because we've seen it time and time again. So I think for me, that is the key to the game, rather than stopping the run game, which, as you said, it's pretty much mediocre. It's made. Stafford, when he has time, as you can see, 112.8 passer rating clean, we need to get the pressure on him. And it's going to be difficult because for their offensive line, the two tackles are pretty much the two outstanding players on that line. So I think all the pressure needs to come up the middle, because the middle of the O-line isn't particularly great, and the centre's currently carrying an injury designation. So whether or not he plays or not is a different thing, and he's a rookie anyway. Hopefully he does play and he plays injured, and that's where we can get our pressure from. So I think it's going to be all about the pressure. If we can get to Stafford, we can win this game, regardless of how many gadget plays that McVay has copied from Shanahan or McDaniel, because he'll be copying them from there as well. Doesn't matter how many of those he's done. If we can get pressure on Stafford, we can win this game.
I think that linebacker speed is going to be important to take out some of those gadget plays as well.
Yeah.
Getting across to the sidelines quickly. This could be, Fred's been quiet. I'm hoping if he gets Dre back next to him, there's going to be a resurgence in the mojo, and those two are going to be out laying in the hits. And we've never seen those two guys play with Mustafa as well and Huff. So, expect pain.
That's going to be interesting. I mean, when you saw Fred give that interview when he was asked about Dre Greenlaw coming back, you could see the excitement in his face. He can't wait for Dre to get on the field again, because he knows it's going to be a completely different game with him there. And if he does play on Thursday night, I know he's questionable, but he has been limited in practice, so he is practicing. And I think they have been fairly cautious with him throughout the season, because there was a chance he was going to start the season. But then they kind of wrapped him in cotton wool, because we thought we had enough in the linebacker room to actually let him sit and let him actually recover properly. So I think he's going to be recovered well. And it's just getting up to game speed. But being on the field with Fred, I think that's going to lift Fred. And that's reflected in some of my boldies later.
Well, I think the one area that stuck out for me, Gareth, when I was doing the deep dive, I agree with you. What you say about Stafford, he's been really good this year. And like you said, we know what's going to happen. He's going to be calling at least 20 passes for Nakua, for Cup. That's what he's going to do. But the Rams have really improved on third down over these last few weeks. They were on a 5 for 28 streak in weeks 10 to 12. They went 4 for 9 against the Saints, and they went for a stunning 11 for 15 against the Bills. Now, I'm not trying to hype up the Rams, but you go off the game tape, you go on the eye test. They took a really good team in the Bills all the way. 44-42. Third down conversion rate is massive in this league.
So bear in mind, the Bills have the 24th ranked defense. Just because we couldn't run on them, I mean, you can completely forget that game because of the conditions. It was just an absolute mess, that game.
We couldn't score on them.
24th. No,
we couldn't score.
Yeah.
We moved the ball on them.
You're right.
We couldn't score.
Yeah, and it just shows you how easy it was to move the ball on them. And obviously our red zone issues came up, which hopefully, after last week, we've gotten around those red zone issues. So if that's the case, the Rams are going to come up against a much better defense. And that's what I'm pinning my hopes on. Defense wins championships. I think we have got a good defense. Yes, we've lost some big players this season. Some players are only just coming back, but I think we've still got a championship caliber defense. Maybe he's not a championship caliber defensive coordinator, but a championship caliber defense.
Yeah, he had to go there, didn't he, Gareth? I mean, to be fair,
he did.
Just in case anybody thought I was praising Sorensen, I'm not.
He's nothing if not consistent. I think the D line, the guys who've had to come and step up on the D line, I think they're getting better. Whether that's Sorensen or just playing together or working out where their strengths and weaknesses are, I think we're seeing that D line that was a weakness getting stronger. And that's good, particularly as we've seen our secondary get a little bit of boost, I think, with Huff coming back and hopefully Dre.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, Lee. You touched upon the key will be getting to Stafford and the pressure. And, Floyd has stepped up recently. Matos is back. Collins. I mean, there's still a hope. As Bosa hasn't been officially ruled out yet. I mean, I'd be surprised at this point on Wednesday night to see him.
Yeah, he's not practicing, so I wouldn't expect him.
But like you said,
Same
the
with
fact that Sorensen's lost Bosa, you could argue it's the same with, Shanahan with CMC. Now Bosa's not there. Maybe Sorensen's had to kind of, I need to do something different. And I'm excited to see Greenlaw back on the field. We might see him on a snap count like we saw with Hufanga, but I do think it'll be something the Rams will be obviously looking at. And also, Gareth, Najee's not here, but do you think he'd be going for a Hufanga Baldy in this game? Because Hufanga does like to play against these Rams, doesn't he?
He's had a pick six, I think, not that long ago. Was it his rookie year? Maybe Huff's rookie year. He had a nice pick six off staff. So
it's in the celebration. I think Warner had a pick six against the Rams as well.
Yeah.
So these Baldies are going to go. Anything else on the Rams offensively? Do we reckon that we need to? Because I think that was a good bit of deep dive by Gareth. Nice to see you've done your homework, buddy.
I think the thing that I was just going to say I think one of these unsung guys like Tutu Atwell last time could be a bit of a thorn. You could see a guy suddenly having 5 catches and it being 2 TDs. I think there was talk that maybe Tyler Higbee might be back, and I think that would be his first game in the season. Maybe he's not going to be match fit for it, but one of those guys, maybe it'll be Tutu Atwell again, or one of the tight ends, could just suddenly sneak out, get lost. And I could see that happening, sadly. It still won't be enough to win, but,
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Rams offense and it's pretty much like the 49ers now. You have to pick your poison. Who do you want to cover now? Cooper Kupp, good. Nakua, good. Williams, I mean, he's not going to run any that much, so we don't have to worry about him. But if Tyler Higbee comes back,
don't say that.
I know. If Tyler Higbee comes back, he's like chalk and cheese. He has off days. He has good days against us. I think the last game he played against us, he was pretty terrible. So I kind of hope he does come back. But in the same vein, I'm thinking, well, actually, he has also had some really good games against us. So it's going to be difficult, which is why, again, the key has to be get pressure on Stafford. If you get pressure on Stafford, you don't really need to worry about where the wide receivers are because he's going to mess it up anyway.
So we do have a question from our own insider, Chris, but I will save that for a little bit later. As we said at the start of the show, those people watching live, we do appreciate you in the chat, but obviously we're recording the preview pod, so I am going to try and get through all the comments. If you are still with us, drop a 49er Faithful UK in the chat, just so we know you haven't fallen asleep. But shall we move on to the Rams defence, or is there another rabbit hole that we can disappear on before I give my scouting report? What do you reckon, chaps?
No, let's flip it.
Yeah, or the defence.
All right, so that falls onto me. So Sula had his work cut out for him when he was promoted to be the coordinator after Morris went to Atlanta. He inherited a young defence with some glaring holes, Aaron Donald being the most notable loss on that side of the ball. Now, it has taken a while, chaps, for Sula to hit his stride in calling the plays, but after a brutal start to the year, sadly for us, the Rams have been one of the better defensive teams in the NFL over the last 3 weeks, and the numbers back it up. In the first 5 weeks of the season, the Rams ranked last in the NFL in EPA play allowed. They were terrible against the pass, they were giving up big plays, and they were committing way too many penalties. Always a recipe for disaster. Wouldn't you agree, Lee, at this stage? It sounds like this is a defence we want to face. This one from the first 5 weeks.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely, like I said, I mean, after last week's game where the offence finally seemed as though it clicked completely, both getting to the red zone and actually scoring in the red zone, I think we are hitting this defence at exactly the right time. And I think our defence, again, just to go back to their offence, it is getting it right at the right time. I think this is the perfect time to be playing the Rams. And the fact that Shanahan's mentioned it, I think Gross Matos actually said something about that's the first playoff dub. I saw Brad Graham mention that. He didn't quite click what he meant by that until a little bit later, and then he realised that's what the team are thinking. Every single game now is a playoff game because it's a must-win. So I think we're clicking at the right time. Shanahan, because of all the rumours, I'm saying rumours, because of all the social media armchair GMs saying, oh yeah, he's going to be fired or he's going to be traded. I think he's got the bit between his teeth now. I think everybody knows where they stand. The whole clearing the air with Brock Purdy, Diamondal and all getting up to speak to everybody. I think the team has come together as one cohesive unit, and I think it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a good game tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, looking back at this defence, the first few weeks, they couldn't stop anyone on the ground. The pass rush was it was generating a decent amount of pressure, but it just didn't have the sacks to go with it. Then week 6 hit, they had the bye week, and that break came at the perfect time for the Rams. Now, sadly for us, since week 7, there's only one team in the league that ranks higher than the Rams in EPA play allowed, and that's the Eagles, who are having a season. It's been a remarkable turnaround and one that the coordinator deserves a lot of credit for, but so do these young players that were getting a lot of grief at the start of the season. Jared Verse has become a complete game wrecker on the edge. He's recorded 19 total pressures in his last 3 games alone. He only had 20 in the first 5 weeks. Frisk has stepped up, and that's been a welcome boost because what teams were doing at first, chaps, they knew they had to stop Verse, and that was pretty much it. But now that Frisk has stepped up and he's shown on the stat sheet, it's kind of a bit like what we've seen with, Matt Dawson and Floyd. Now, the defence is also shutting opponents down, and it's putting up points of its own. This Rams defence has scored points in recent games. A pick 6 against the Packers, a fumble return for a touchdown against the Raiders, a safety against the Vikings, and my favourite, a pick 6 against the Seahawks. I know you hate the Rams, Lee, but the Seahawks are the one that I hate. So when I was preparing for this, it was good to see that. And it's not as if the Rams have played bottom-tier offences either. I know I mentioned the Raiders, who were a mess, but the Vikings and the Seahawks both rank in the top 15 in points per game and yards per play. So we shouldn't be taking this defence too lightly. Now, we have referenced the Bills. They did give up 42 points last week. The defence did have its hands full, but the special teams provided a huge lift with a blocked punt touchdown. And obviously the offence, as Gareth has alluded to, was electric. Now, to finish off, the Rams have become a cover 3 and a cover 6 defence under Shula. Their 21% cover rate in cover 6 is tied for the highest in the NFL, while their 46% in cover 3 ranks 3rd. And as I said earlier, Verse ranks 5th in QB pressures. He ranks 1st amongst all other rookies in the league. And when you were looking at this Rams defense, thinking, how are they going to replace Aaron Donald? I'm not saying he's at that level yet, because Aaron Donald was elite. I know we like to bash him on this show, but you can't take away what he did for this Rams defense. They've got Quinton Lake, Corby Turner, and Frisk, who are all young players. But with these young players, Gareth, I've seen some growing pains early on that they seem to have got over. Is that your opinion when you watch this Rams defense over the last few weeks?
I haven't really watched this Rams defense over the last few weeks for my sins, for my preparation. What I will note is Shanahan will have something ready. He will obviously be fuming from the week 3 performance where we should have won, and again it was just the beginning of that slope where we just seemed to fail to execute on a handful of plays, and suddenly you lose a game. So I think Shanahan will have something up his sleeve for this, which I'll save for my what do you call it? My bold predictions.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. I think
Well,
when
you
I
did.
was preparing, it's what happens when you're the host. I think when I looked at this Rams team at the start of the season, Aaron Donald retired, Morris had left to become the Falcons head coach. I don't think any of us expected this defense to be top 10. And you look at a young defense and you look at a first-time coordinator, and there's always going to be inconsistencies, which we've seen firsthand. Now, Lee has some impressive slides that he's prepared. When I was preparing Lee, the Rams defense was currently ranked 27th overall. They're on average allowing 366 yards per game, and they've conceded 37 touchdowns this season. Now, I referenced the Bills game quite a lot during this because it's the one that stuck out. But aside from James Cook, the Rams defense couldn't really do anything to slow the Bills down. They allowed Josh Allen to have a career game. He had 342 passing yards, 82 rushing yards, and 6 total touchdowns as he became the first NFL quarterback to have 3 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns in the first game. So, maybe my bold prediction might reflect that, Lee. Are you going to go bolder than that? You think Brock's going to come in and do 4-4?
No, he's
No.
definitely going to do. He's definitely not going to do 4-4. Like I said, I do have some bold predictions in there. I think last week's game was an outlier for both the Bills and the Rams. It was 2 poor defenses going up against each other. I'm sure the Bills would have been war weary after that game against ourselves in the snow. That must have taken a lot out of them. Even though we didn't really score on them, we did move the ball, as Gareth said. So they were on the field for quite a length of time in pretty poor conditions. So I would imagine they've got in there quite tired still, or even though they've had like a week's rest. And I think that's an outlier. And I think that's why the score was so high. I can't see it being anywhere near that high on Thursday night or Friday morning as it is for us.
Yeah, I mean, I referenced some of the stats there, but the Rams secondary is an area that I think Shanahan is going to look to exploit. And I think he's going to build on that game plan that we saw last week against the Bears. I mean, as much as Gareth did a great job saying the LA's offense is good enough to play anyone, this defense gives any opponent hope. And I am feeling confident going into this one, Lee.
I think they gave up.
Agree.
They gave up a load of big plays to the Bills. Fair enough. The Bills were chasing the game, and they had to go for the big plays, but this defense gave them up. I think they found the holes in that, and Shanahan will have noticed that for sure.
I mean, our defense has come in for a lot of stick, and I always, when I do my preparation, I probably put too much information in it, and I get too bogged down with it. But you look at the stats; their passing defense is ranked 24th, their rush defense is ranked 28th. Scoring defense 24th, but the one that jumped out for me and what I wanted us to touch upon before we moved on to the score predictions, their red zone defense is actually 8th in the league at the moment. Now, it is well documented that our red zone issues haven't been where we would like, but last week we were 5 for 6, and as we talked on the show the other night, it would have been 6 for 6 if it wasn't for that blooming penalty. So have we turned a corner, Lee? Do you think our red zone...
I think we have. I can't remember what the stat was, but I believe the Bears' defense were one of the highest ranked defenses in the red zone. And yet we put 38 points on them. So, yes, I think we've changed. I think we've turned a corner. I think going into this game against a defense that, by all means, is a good defense in the red zone, it's not quite as good as what the Bears were. And like you said, we could have had 6 for 6 last week if it wasn't for a flag. So that doesn't concern me how good they are on the red zone, because at the end of the day, they're coming up to Levi's. We're going to have home field advantage. We've got the bit between our teeth. And I think Stafford's video saying, let's go get the effing Niners, I think that's just going to wound the players up a little bit more. And I think they're going to be up for it.
Yeah,
because they know it's win or go home.
You said something I think important on the Monday show, Lee. You said that the players looked like they'd enjoyed playing football again.
That's right.
And obviously after the horrific off-field stuff that the teams had for the last few weeks and those performances, that locker room must have been a very different place last Sunday early evening. And I think that's the momentum that they needed to say, look, we're in wildcard rounds. This is our playoffs now. We know how to win playoff games because we've done it consistently for the last few years, and hopefully, I think that's going to be the mental boost that the players are going to need to get them through this kind of game.
Well, I mentioned the red zone percentage rate. So overall, Gareth, we rank 22nd in the NFL at the moment with a 52.94 conversion rate. But in the last 3 games, we rank 6th at 70%. And Lee always says it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And we are building that optimism, Lee. Now, you mentioned the Matt Stafford bulletin board. Now, we had something similar in our own group yesterday. I don't know if you saw James Evans, good friend of the show, called into question Deebo Samuel being the captain, the C on the chest. James called into question Deebo's leadership with the tweet. Now, I, as you know, like a tweet or two, and I tend to be plugged into social media. Now, for me, it wasn't so much a big deal. The week before,
No, it wasn't
Kittle
for me
had stood up at the podium and said, I didn't get the game against the Bills, went off against the Bears. Yesterday, I was I wouldn't say we were arguing, but I was trying to give a different side to the argument. And then I felt quite smug when Kyle Shanahan came out and said the same as what you said there, Lee. I wasn't worried. The team have come out and said they weren't worried. Brock Purdy spoke quite glowingly of Deebo. So I don't think there's an issue in the locker room. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, because the way, if you take it in the context that it was tweeted, basically somebody asked him the question or somebody made a statement, and he basically just said, "Look, I'm not getting the ball." Simple as that. He didn't call out Brock. He didn't call out Shanahan. He just said, "Look, I'm not getting the ball. That's why I'm not getting the yards." And I think that's fine, because he just answered a simple question. And it's the way people twist things. Like our friend Kent. Our friend Kent would have made a big deal of that, saying, "Oh yeah, Deebo's destroying the locker room." He's not. All he did was just answer a simple tweet, simple statement. And I don't see any issue with that. I know Kyle's turned around and said, look, just completely ignore social media. There's always going to be somebody writing something bad about you. Just ignore it and get on with it. Whether or not that means we're going to see Deebo targeted a lot more this week, I don't know. Obviously, Deebo always plays well against the Rams, so I was expecting that anyway, regardless. And again, because of the way the Rams' defense are, especially the linebackers, I can definitely see George having another big game as well. So you could see both George and Deebo getting the vast majority of the targets, and Jennings, he might be an afterthought potentially.
Well, you mentioned
third down, of course, and we're going straight at Jennings.
You mentioned our friend Mr. Kent. He did put out a bit of a, I wouldn't say cryptic tweet. He put something about the game plan, and if Deebo's targeted 11 times like he was in the Super Bowl, we're losing this game. And I thought, come on, you're just trying to stoke up the fire. But it was a good piece of discussion yesterday, so I like the fact that James opened up that door. I thought the discussion was respectful. And like you said, Lee, perspective is key in this. And I was sat at home thinking, it's not something that I'm worried about. It shows, like you said, Gareth, the players are enjoying this, they're having fun. You know, Deebo, we all remember the moments against the Rams, and I'm the same as you, Lee. I'm hoping for another big Deebo game this week.
I'll be honest, Paul, I'd be more worried if one of our wide receivers sent out a tweet saying, I wish he'd stop throwing the ball at me. I'm getting the ball far too many times. I'm in danger of getting injured.
Yeah. What did you make of it, Gareth?
That's when I'd get annoyed.
I think we have been a little bit critical that Deebo hasn't been a factor this season, but I think we've talked about that with Shanahan's play calling of using the Deebo in that wide back role, where it just seems to be there's a tell now, and people are on him before he's even got the ball, and that play doesn't work. I don't think the blame is on Deebo. It's on Shanahan for dialing up that play at that time. I think people have it worked because it was a novelty. I don't think it's that much of a novelty now. People have seen it. People have seen it for 3 years now. And I think Deebo's been suffering from that. I think we know Deebo, it hasn't been necessarily the best pass catcher. And I think he just hasn't had the opportunities to break the runs when he has been able to catch the ball. I think, again, that's the way people are setting out against us, to stop that yards after the catch, because that's what we've known for. That's what's been effective. Defenses are trying to stop that and basically saying, well, look, we don't mind if you get 10, 15-yard catch. We're going to make sure you don't get anything more once you've got the ball in your hand as a receiver. Obviously, the Bears weren't able to do that. But I'm hoping it's firing Debo up. I hope that it's one of those things that it's a symptom of our offensive issues. They looked a lot fixed last week. I hope bringing Debo into the game is going to be part of that. Or maybe he's just been, Shanahan and Debo have just been plotting this since week 3.
Well, some of the stuff that I saw this week, Lee, obviously, you mentioned the great Brad Graham, Johnny Dell, Rich Madrid, Jason Aponte. Some of the content creators have kind of, I wouldn't say they've been looking for this on the game tape, but they've gone back, Gareth, and they've said, hang on, is this on Debo or is it a team issue? And they've seen some of the players last week against the Bears where people aren't blocking or there's been a blown assignment. And yeah, Debo needs to do a bit more. I don't think anyone on this show is going to say Debo has been at the levels that we've seen. But it's just quite funny with the way the season's going, the way I'm looking at this story. And I mean, like you, Lee, we love watching Debo's podcast. We love seeing the access we get to the players. It wouldn't surprise me if last week was a George Kittle game. This week it's a Debo Samuel game. So I'm all for it, to be fair.
So for me with Debo, there's one thing that, if I was to pick out something negative about Debo, the one thing is, if he doesn't get the ball, or if he's targeted and the ball's slightly behind him, his whole body language is off. You can just see it. It's almost like disgust that the ball wasn't placed directly into his hands. Whereas, like, you see Brandon Ayuk go up and Brandon turns to get that ball. Or Pearsall, we've seen him turn to get the ball. Kittle definitely turns all over to get that ball. Whereas Debo tends not to do that. Or if he is asked to do that, that's when his suspect hands come into play. Because he hasn't got the greatest of hands. Yeah, once you can get the ball into his hands, then he's off like a shot. He's off to the races. But we've always said he's not the best receiver as far as getting that ball into his hands is concerned. And I just don't like the body language if the ball's not exactly where he wants it to be. Because you can see he's just disgusted.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't like about Debo.
The final thing I will say on the issue is, I mean, Larry Kruger was on the same page as us, doesn't think it's a big deal. But Richard Sherman, who knows a lot more about football than me, he discussed it on his podcast and he said it's not a big deal. You try to address the drama, you try to address the rumours. But I think Carl Shanahan did quite well. He's one of them, I don't do social media, but I'm aware of it kind of thing. So, I mean, as Justin, a good friend of the show's put there, his body language is off. And he's put there because he's old by usual standards. He's done with Debo. And I get it. Again, our fan base, we're one of the more vocal on social media. We're not shy of sharing our opinion. But Gareth, see how I did well there? My own rabbit hole. We went off on a tangent. Nobody had Debo Samuel for this long. But chaps, I think we've reached that time in the show. Score predictions time. Unless you've got anything you want to add before we go down that road, Lee? Do you reckon we go for score predictions, or is there anything else you want to say?
No, I think we can hit the score predictions. Yeah. So, one thing I will say, mine, I think we might do the same thing as last week with it being a short week. We've only had one practice and we're recording earlier. We can give a score prediction and then we can confirm that tomorrow night. Yeah? Is that fair enough?
Mr. Competitive. Here you go. Well, the one thing more about our offense really is who is going to be running the ball. As there's a question there that hopefully Guendo will be fit to go, but if he's not, I mean, Taylor looks dependable perhaps, but I think this is a game made for passers.
So yeah, we didn't do the injury report for those people listening back on the pod because obviously
it's far too long. It would have taken an hour.
Yeah,
it's too depressing.
It's a short week, but we have finally reached everyone's favourite part of the show. Lee, will we silence the lambs? Or are you going down the dirty points road as the league leader?
First, do you want to just give an overview of the table there to say who's leading? I think that would be best. I think it would be best coming from you, Paul.
I've just said as league leader. Over to you. You get your props. You know, I've got my notes there. So for you people on YouTube, Lee Gowland is leading the awesome foursome. What point have you got, Lee? I can't remember off the top of my head. Do you want to do the
'cause
breakdown?
I've just moved it. Right,
So-
68 points.
Lee has 68, Gareth has 64, I have 58, and Nadji is speechless on 57.
He really needs to predict better, doesn't he?
He does. He definitely does. Well, I mean, it'll come as no surprise because we are going up against the Rams. There's absolutely no way I'm going for dirty points twice in the same season. I'm going to go for a win. And I've got us winning 28-24. I think it's going to be a fairly close game. I'm confident our defence can keep them out, but they do seem to be clicking, and Puka Nakua does tend to have good games against us. So I think they'll get points on the board, but we will win.
Over to you, Gareth. You're next.
I think once again this has been a tough one, but I considered the dirty points. I'll admit that more as a kind of consolation prize that if we lost it, then at least I would have something. But I still can't do it. I do think this could be a bit of a Thursday night shootout. I've gone for Niners win 34-30.
Oh, well, it'll be no surprise to anyone, especially the Discord community, that I'm going for a 49ers win, and we will win this one 31-24. That's what I've gone for. Shifty, who's in the comments, has gone for a 49ers win 30-28. Justin has gone for a 26-21 Niners, and he's gone with his own baldy that we're going to get 7 on a special teams play. Ooh, that is bold, given our special teams this year. Nadji hasn't given us one yet, has he, Lee?
No, I haven't seen it come through yet.
No. So let us know in the comments what your score predictions are. And if you're listening to this one and you're on the Discord, competition, community, predictor league, yes, I'm looking at you. We are watching out for dirty points. Silent of the lambs. All to play for, as Lee said at the start. We have to playoff mode now, boys. We have to win every single game. So this will show those people who really want the dirty points, won't it, Gareth? It'll separate the men from the dirty points.
See, we must be having such a good job at peddling the positivity that even Red Jet Shell has come around for a Niners win now.
Yes, Red Jet Shell. So she has put an earlier comment where she's put there that she hopes the Niners to prove the California dominance. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Welcoming our fours into Levi's.
I hope the crowd get into it as well on Thursday night. It's a great place for Thursday night football with the sun going down. Yeah, so I hope the faithful out there shout for all of us over here as well.
Well, I was going to say,
we won't be able to shout at home.
Yeah, no, I'd get into trouble.
At 1:30 a.m.
I mean, David Betteridge will be at the game. We forgot to give him his props. He was at the game on Sunday. And there's somebody else in the group who's flown out. I seen them I was looking for it now on Facebook, but my phone's on airplane mode. Somebody else is flying out, to, I believe, to their first 49ers game from the group because they apologised for flag spam. And I was like, never apologise for flag spam. I would be disappointed if there was no photos of the flag. But yeah, as you pointed out, Gareth, it is a 1:15 red-eye game, which we'll get to later what it means for Discord. But I'm excited for this one. I do like the Rams. Your hated rivals, aren't they, Lee? This one's your big rivalry match.
Yeah. I hate the Rams. So yeah. I wish I could have predicted a more wide open game. Bit of a beat down, but I think it's going to be close.
Well, Martin has joined us. He's only just done his prediction. He's already forgotten what he's put, but he's put a definite Niners win. No dirty points this week. Just what we like to see, Martin. He's gone 31-24. Same as me, Martin. So that's guaranteed to get it right. Look at Lee's face. If I get this one right, you're going to rich.
I don't care. 2-0 I'll take. Any win,
yeah,
I do not care.
Yeah,
I do not care. Have you guys got some boldies?
Yeah, I do. I think Paul's already mentioned it at the start of the show, so he's already pinched one of mine. He didn't say he was going for it.
He's terrible like that.
Potentially somebody else. I think Shifty's also getting another one of mine as well. Yeah. So I'm going to go. I'm going to leave offense to the last because I think offense is the one that we're all dying to get to. So defense, I've got Fred to have a pick 6.
Oh, nice. No, I didn't. I mentioned that he scored. I said Nadji would have probably gone for a Hufanga pick six. So that was why I was going down that road. But have you got any defensive ones, Gareth, before I give mine?
Yeah, he came close last week, and he's not going to let it fall by this week. It's going to be D Winters, I think, first interception of his career. I believe it will be. And that might be bold because obviously if Dre's got back, might limit how he'll play. But I think having three linebackers will be we'll see quite a lot of that in this game. I think because of the amount of pass catching options the Rams have got.
So it's like the chat is reading our minds. So Shifty has put his prediction in there, same as mine. I think Lenore gets an interception, but he's added Lenore to get a sack as well. So I believe we're going to get 4 sacks. We're going to get 2 interceptions, which is 1 for Lenore, 1 for Green. And as I alluded to earlier, can't go into this game and not say a Hufanga pick 6. So they are my boldies at the moment. And I think, was there someone else put one in the chat? Oh no, Shifty's asked who the player of the game will be, but we don't tend to do that, actually, do we? We don't tend to pick one player. We tend to pick our talking points. So
yeah.
Oh, and Justin's corrected me. He said 7, I think, on defense / special teams. I don't know whether is that something to do with fantasy football or D/ST.
No, I think I assume it means when we don't have the ball on special teams, like blocking a field goal.
Team we're going to have to, yeah. Right. So that is actually another one of my ballies. I thought we were going to have a 6. Sorry, 6. Yeah, 6 from the special teams touchdown.
So it's Mike Dunham who was out in Santa Clara. So offensive baldies. I'm going to go to you first, Gareth, because you normally have to wait till we've given all ours, and you are the guest this week, buddy. So you go first.
We've seen it before, and we've seen it happen in this particular matchup. Someone other than Brock Purdy is throwing a touchdown pass for the Niners this game.
Well, you guarantee that's going to be Jennings.
I did think Debo,
could be Juice.
Because Juice. He hasn't had one yet, and I think because of that fumble against the Bills, he wants something. He wants a moment of redemption. So I'd love to see a Juice to Jennings 50-yarder. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I think we see a trick play as well. I can't quite work it out, but Shanahan does like to go into the bag of tricks against McVay. Obviously, we remember CMC, so yeah, I think that's a good shout, that Gareth. Any more?
No, I'll let you shout it around just in case anyone else has got something.
Well, I've gone for 31 points, so we're scoring 4 touchdowns. They're going to get spread out. Kittle's getting a touchdown. Debo's getting a touchdown. I think Brock Purdy gets a rushing touchdown in the red zone. And Patrick Taylor, because I don't know whether Guerendo's going to play. So there's my 4 touchdowns. And I think Debo has 150 total yards of offense in this game. There you go.
Nice.
So I'm only left with 2 touchdowns to go because I've got Fred with the pick 6 and I've got special teams getting a touchdown. And I've actually got Debo to have over 100 yards and 2 TDs, 1 through the air and 1 on the ground.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Debo's due a good game, and like I said at the start of the show, he always plays well against the Rams. He seems to enjoy the whole occasion against them. I think he enjoys that rivalry as well. I think a few of the players on the 49ers do. So yeah, I am expecting, because of what Debo's tweeted, I think they're going to look at Debo a little bit more, just like they looked at Kittle a little bit more. I mean, it could be telling this. If Debo does have a lot more targets this week, after he's come out and said that, and obviously Kittle had a lot more targets last week after he came out and said something, maybe it is Kyle thinking, well, I'm just going one-dimensional all the time. I now need to spread the love. And hopefully that'll see our offense progress. It'll morph into something that's unstoppable by the end of the regular season, because we will be that team where you have to pick your poison, because you don't know whether or not it's going to go to Jennings, it's going to go to Guerendo, it's going to go to Kittle, it's going to go to Debo, it's going to go to Peasel. Who knows? That's the type of thing you need to be on offense, because that's what the Chiefs do. You don't know where the ball's going with the Chiefs, and that's why they're so good on offense. And that's what we need to do. That needs to complement our defense, which is a championship caliber defense, as I've already said. And I am getting myself hyped up here because I think we can win out. We can win out. We can sneak into the playoffs, and number 6 is coming on.
Well, I had it confirmed from a listener that was the most positive introduction they'd heard from Nadji, who's known as Mr. Cool, on Monday's show. And I agree with you, Lee. I think that the defence is getting better at the right time. Martin has come in with a baldy of his own. Brock hands it to Juice. Juice throws it to Brock, who was legged into the end zone. So special teams, special players.
I'd like to see it. That could be it. I think it's Kittle again. I think it's going to be Jennings and Debo are going to get the yards, and Kittle is going to be the red zone target, and he's going to get a couple of TDs. It will have something like 4 catches for 8 yards and 2 TDs. It'll be one of those strange stat lines. So with, Jennings and Debo getting the chunk plays in the middle of the field.
Before we finish off, we still can't play the advert from our awesome partners, Power Brand Systems, but I just wanted to shout them out because they empower creators and businesses to build their brand, attract an audience, and grow through effective systems and software solutions. And I also, Lee, at this point, just wanted to give John Chapman a special shout out. He came in for a little bit of stick on Twitter yesterday that I saw. That was the reason behind my tweet. So someone had taken offence to a tweet John had put out there about Trevarius Ward. John has since come out and clarified his comments, and some of the criticism was that John doesn't support other content creators and he's kind of in it for himself. And my experience of John Chapman is not that. He's been a big supporter of our show. He's had us on his channel. He shouted us out on his channel. He was a legend in Levi's last year. And I know we are a small fish in a very big pond. But equally, when I saw that tweet yesterday, Lee, I thought, you know what? I've got to stick up for John because he's a good friend of the show. And that is the reasoning behind my tweet. So I just wanted to take this moment to give John a mention.
Right, it might come as no surprise whatsoever, Paul, but I've not got a Scooby what you're talking about.
Yeah, me neither.
That's all right. I don't need to go into too much detail.
And before you finish off, you've got one of Chris's comments starred, and I don't think we've talked about that one.
No, we're not quite at the end of the show.
Right,
I was going to
just
say...
didn't want you to go without...
No. I was going to say any final thoughts.
Just keep me honest.
Because we have a question. So I'm going to come to you first, Gareth. So Chris Wood, our very own Discord insider, has asked, if the Niners won the West, snuck in as the 4th seed, is the quality we have sat in IR, the medical tent, all too much? What do you reckon, Gareth?
As in, even if we sneak through, we're just not going to have the firepower in the playoffs. I think right now we've got a lot of injuries. There's no mistake in that. But I think worse teams than us, without carrying the injuries, have made it all the way to the Super Bowl before. So, it's any given Sunday, isn't it?
There, Gareth.
Yeah,
that's who you're talking about. Number one. There.
That's who. Yeah, that's who I was thinking of. So
exactly.
Other teams have done it with perhaps less personnel, and I think it might be one of those things that we've got nothing to lose at the moment. No one expects us. We're not favourites. I think we enjoyed that underdog tag. I don't think we benefited so much from being the favourites. I think we want people to underestimate us. I think we want people to dismiss us and assume that even if we do sneak into the playoffs, people are going to say, "Oh, yeah, well, if you play the Niners in the playoffs, it's the same as getting a bye." It's not. It's playoff football, and one thing Kyle has done very well is win playoff games consistently, and the team knows how to win. I read something that at some point this season about what the mistake of why the Chiefs are doing so well, and it's because they know how to win. They know, and that's what got them over the line in the Super Bowl last year, because they know how to do it, and we know how to win in the playoffs. And some of the teams that we're facing maybe haven't had that experience yet. So I think we are built for the playoffs, and really I don't think anyone who actually knows about football is going to want to face us in the playoffs, because it's dangerous. That team that's got nothing to lose.
What do you reckon, Lee?
Exactly. Nobody's going to want to face us, especially if we finish the season with 5 wins.
If we get there.
Yeah, if we get there.
See,
But yeah, nobody's going to want to face us.
Nah.
It's how we finish, not how we start.
Yes, I knew we teed you up in the right way. I was going to say any final thoughts because, I mean, to be fair, we try to keep the preview show a little bit light. We try to stick to about an hour on the live. But, you know, I've enjoyed this one, Lee. And the chat have asked some good questions on there. The final thoughts from me. I wanted to say thank you both for joining me. I had a blast as always. Don't forget that for the UK faithful, this is a red-eye game, which is a 1:15 a.m. kickoff. It also means it is after dark on the game day thread on Discord. We will be switching the Facebook wall off prior to the game if one of the admin members remembers to do it. And we will also have Eric's reaction post straight after the game, where I'm hoping it's going to be celebratory rather than negativity. But I'm feeling confident as it stands at the moment, Lee. Like Chris Wood said there, we've got them all convinced, haven't we, Lee?
Yeah.
What did you say on Monday, Lee? Was it Super Bowl or bust, baby?
Yeah, Super Bowl or bust.
Well, it is.
It is. Super Bowl or bust.
It absolutely is.
I mean, the whole season has been about adversity. It's the perfect story to go on America's game. Overcoming that adversity.
It must be the script.
We're going to win it. Hopefully the odds have dropped low enough to have a decent bet on them now.
We'll have our own moment to look back on. We'll reference last show where Nadji was lost for words by our positivity. But yes, Justin, I think it's playoff games, as we've said. The Niners are not a team that people want to face. I'm not looking too far ahead to that Lions game, Lee. One game at a time. It is the Rams on Thursday Night Football.
And that's
prime time. That's what you got to focus on.
There's one game left this season. Yeah,
and anything can happen between now and the Lions game. Anything. I mean, just not for us, hopefully, fingers crossed, but an injury to a player, to a key player in the Lions. Because they can't trade for anybody now. So, I mean, they did a good job at replacing Hutchinson. They did get somebody who can come in and make get that pressure on the quarterback. But if they have anybody injured now, that's it. All it takes is that one injury. We've seen it time and time again with ourselves.
Someone's in concussion protocol for a week and doesn't pass it, misses one game, even though they're generally fit.
On the flip side of that, all it takes is one player coming back from injury to completely change a team. Nick Bosa, Trent Williams,
Dre Greenlaw.
Yeah, as Martin said there, number 6 coming.
Yeah.
Go Niners. He's put thanks, chaps. Now, I just want to say, please do all that good stuff. Like, subscribe, tell all your friends about us. Leave comments, good, bad. We're big enough and ugly enough to take it. We will be back next week, regardless, win, lose or draw, to review the game. And all that is left for me to say is go Niners.
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
Go Niners.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, G Clark. Garrison Hurst, stiff farm going 99. Don't get it twisted.